Is a colposcopy really away from the vaccine? So what are the criteria for doing colposcopy? So madam, please.
The criteria of doing colposcopy is, the basic idea is whenever you find that a pap smear is abnormal, in that case is from where to take a biopsy. That's to my mind, that's the main indication. That it precisely tells you from where to take the biopsy, because on the same site, you can find there are lesions where if you take from those particular area, it will be higher grade lesions which will be there. So the gynecologist has a training, after training, that she can decide from which area should to take a biopsy. That's the main thing. Otherwise, the question is whenever there is CIN2, CIN3, we have to take, pap smear has to be confirmed by the histopathology. Whenever there is an atypical squamous glandular lesions, or ascus is there, then we have to confirm this particular thing, and for that the histopathology is required, and for that the colposcopy is needed.
Thank you, madam. So the next question, so coming from the same question, continuation, Dr. Kalpana Thapa. Her question is, when we start the screening, basically she was pointing out the screening practice in India is very less, and what should be the ideal part, and what is your practicality you are suggesting?
See, the global strategy for cervical screening is now from 2013 it is followed. It is from that it is not to be done earlier than 21 years, it is between 21 to 65 years. 21 to 30 years, we only use of cytology. After 30 years, it can be cytology alone, or it can be HPV co-test. Now, question is, we have to talk the remotest area, the poorest of the poor in this particular country. And I think WHO has come with a roadmap that in her lifetime, if she's screened at 35 and she's screened at 45 and she's vaccinated, the job is done. At least 2 screenings should be there. And it's beside the point is when we talk about the pap smear. I'm of the opinion that pap smear initially should be done for consecutively 3 years. Then you can pick up the rate, and thereafter it can be done every 3 years. I can have I can be questioned on that particular thing, but that's the way I'm trained and I believe.
Thank you, madam. Now the next question for both of you. So it's a common question that what is the maximum age for HPV vaccination in practical scenarios? So, and specifically, she has mentioned one question came up from Dr. Gupta. So, is there any point of taking vaccination after 35 years? So, this question could be answered.
See, here I wish to tell everybody who's hearing me, the screening is for 21 to 65 years. If the screening was not effective, then the upper cap of 65 years was not there. And in 65 years also, we say that, in the last 10 years, the HPV co-test has been negative, then only the screening has to stop at 65 years. Now, as far as the countries decide about the catch-up vaccination, adolescent vaccination, there is no two opinion about it. There certain countries decide about 26 years, our country has decided in case if we have money, we will give free vaccination up to the age of 45 years. So the cap has been there. But when I was getting trained, I was asked one question from the teacher. She asked me, Dr. Jain, I am 60 years old. She was a teacher from Canada. Do I need to, I want to have a vaccination and how are you going to help me? I said, look, in our country, Government of India, the FOXI and IAP says, it is 45 years, so I can't help you. It is the country which decides how much free vaccination I will be able to give. They do not tell any private person who wants to take beyond 45 years that you should not be taking. You have seen the data which I have just now showed you, that up to age 45 years, the vaccine is going to be effective to the tune of 99.6%. So if somebody asked me, I took the vaccination at the age of 60 years. No hiding from it. So it is for you to decide. If the screening can be done is up to 65 years, then why are you stopping at 26 years and why are you stopping at 45 years? At least this is what I was told by the teachers I've been trained.
Thank you, madam.
Dr. Wadhwa, will you like to comment on this?
Same, I think, only problem is like for vaccinating boys. So if you do above 45 years of age, it might be a little off-label, but definitely if somebody asks for it, definitely give it. There's no harm in giving. The efficacy may become a few percentage less, but it's not that it will not help it. Some people think it might be a side effect, there might be an adverse event. No, it's not like this. So the efficacy may be a percentage point less, but definitely it will help. So even I've vaccinated quite a few, 3, 4, maybe not 5 women who were 50, 55. They had a strong family history. They wanted to get vaccinated. I told them also, like, look, it's mentioned for 45, but you'll not have any problem. That's my guarantee. If you want to take, you can take, and they took. So it's not that you stop and say, no, you're 45 years and 5 days, I can't give it to you. You can.
No, I think when the experts meet and the government says this much money we have, the experts have to decide where the vaccine can be given free. One cap is that 45 years, as far as this country is concerned, if they have plenty of money, they can give vaccination free up to the age of 45 years. But they never said that the private people cannot take it after 45 years.
No, but
some people decide about the catch-up vaccination 26 years.
But since the patient information leaflet says 45, we have to tell the parents, because suppose they take the box or read somewhere online, they might come back and say, why did you not tell us? So I think it's...
No, we have to tell them.
That is still 45, but you can still take, there'll be no adverse event because the PIL mentions 45. So we have to be upfront and tell them. Like similarly, if you do for boys also, like I vaccinated my boys, and I think in my clinic, we vaccinated 25, 30 boys, not many. These were the ones who were going to America. The parents were aware. They wanted to give the vaccine. So I told them, in India, it's not recommended, but there are 24, 25 countries across the world, including US, Canada, England, where they give it officially. In England also, the NHS gives it. So you can take it, and they were willing to take it. In fact, they wanted to take it. That's why they came. So I have to give them, but I also have to inform them because tomorrow if something happens, the DGCI or the government will not support me. They said it's not approved for boys. Why did you give it? So we have to tell them, but I mean, we can give it definitely. It's a slightly a legal issue, maybe a small legal issue, but I think we should be aware of it and tell them.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, madam. Coming to the next question, and it was actually that one question came up, really, can we give the boys? So we have answered this. The next question came up from the various forum actually. As a practitioner, you were also practicing, both of you are practicing for a long time, specifically on HPV vaccine. How do you feel it is, how much it is safe? Though you have discussed, but if you tell from your experience as well as from your knowledge. So for both of you, sir, madam, please.
Well, ma'am, बताइए.
Repeat it for me.
No, he was answering.
Madam, sir, for both of you, just give as.
No, if you ask me, we've given lots and lots of doses. If I calculate maybe 4,000-5,000 doses, and I can tell you it's absolutely safe. There has been no problem ever, except for a little pain, swelling people come back with, or maybe a slight fever. More than fever is the pain. And the adolescent girls who have syncopal attacks, and this syncopal attack is actually a coincidental thing. And because the autonomic nervous system is developing at this age, I've had syncopal attacks in my clinic following a DTaP vaccine, following a meningitis vaccine also. So it's not this HPV vaccine which causes the syncopal attack, it's the age and probably the pain of the injection. So once the child has the syncopal attack, I write in the prescription only that next time when we give it lying down. That's the only difference we do. And that may be happening in, say, once in 30-40 doses. But otherwise, it's absolutely safe. We've had no problem at all in the 4,000-5,000 doses we've given till now.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Madam, to you, actually, you know that sometimes some of the news come up through different social media and people ask the questions, and physicians, pediatricians, gynecologists, they also sometimes think that what is happening. So, madam, please, on safety.
See, the safety data is there in a public domain now, and big bodies, 9 bodies are there who endorse about the safety. So I probably do not say, I said, this is the site, go yourself to the WHO site, to the CDC site, and check for yourself about the safety profile. There's no point arguing with them, and I think, we can definitely tell them that it is a safe thing. And you have to show that this is the data.
I think what Dr. Parthade means to say is that, recently, last time, I think 1 or 2 months ago, there was this WhatsApp going on that this lady had POTS, and then after that, POTS is the partial orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. And she has sued the company for a couple of $1 million. So that's what was going around, and usually these news are usually spread by the anti-vaxxers. So I think that's what he means, the news going around in social media. But if you go to the site, CDC site, WHO site, WHO position paper itself mentions that POTS, which has been observed following various vaccinations, including HPV, is not caused by it. It's a different thing, again, age-related, something like syncopal attacks, which are age-related. So POTS also happens during this age. And then we studied people with POTS who had HPV vaccine recently, the numbers were the same. So when you have case control studies, case control means 2 patients of POTS, one had the vaccine, one did not have the vaccine, and the numbers were the same. So actually there was no causal relationship. It was a coincidental relationship. So that has been proved. These WhatsApp messages, actually, these people, last 9 months, everybody has been subscribing to the WhatsApp University free newsletter, and they get biased and they get into the direction of the anti-vaxxers. But I think that's very important. Even I tell them that you go and read authentic site, the UK NHS site, or the WHO site, or the NHS, the CDC site, and then make your decision. Don't read individual bloggers.
The question is, I've been following for the last 10 years, and I find every 2 years, there is some anti-vaccine group, puts up a thing, and, 40, 50 doctors get excited about it. They make comments. They will not go to the correct site. When you say that you go to the correct site, then everything stops.
Negative news always runs fast.
That's right.
True.
Actually, if you go to the site, there's a very interesting site called National Vaccine Information Center. When you read that site, you feel that this is probably the best site. And you know what? This is the most important anti-vaxxer site. So once I subscribed to it, I said, let's see what newsletters they send. I subscribed to it. And believe me, after reading 8-10 newsletters, I also started doubting my vaccine knowledge. And after that, I actually unsubscribed because, they pick up small cases. Measles happened because of the measles vaccine. This happened because of that. They put a photograph of a child with measles, and they don't say that the child did not take the vaccine. That's why this happened. They would say that because of the vaccine, this happened. So it's really dangerous. And the site name is so dangerous, National Vaccine Information Center. So definitely we have to stay away from these sites, and I tell patients not to read that site specifically. Only WHO, CDC, UK site, Australia site, or the Canadian site.
Perfect.
Thank you. The next question is coming. It's for a pregnant woman. So to Madam specifically, or Dr. Vadhak will answer. So one lady came up to me after 1 month of HPV vaccine. She becomes pregnant. Now, what will be my advice for the dosage? Say second dose and third dose.
No, that we covered. No, continue after pregnancy.
Yes. I think it's very clearly you have to counsel them that your pregnancy has to continue. That is going to be absolutely safe, and the remaining doses will be given after the delivery is over.
Yeah, that's very important. Do not restart the schedule.
And we counsel them otherwise also that whatever you have taken and now you have become pregnant. We get quite the first dose they had taken and the second.
Ma'am, your voice is gone.
Find that they over. So they take it very well, and there is no apprehension of it.
That's the most important thing.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. The next question came up specifically, so it is from Dr. Arya Jugender Arya. Dr. Vadhak, so is it booster dose is required for 2 doses? So we have already discussed, but the question came up. So what is your opinion after 2 doses?
Is not required as of now. Maybe 20, 30 years down the line, there might be a booster, but as of now, only 2 doses for children less than 15 years. After that, 3 doses. No boosters as of now.
Thank you. Then I would like to ask you individually. So the specific, how do you practically, when you talk about vaccination in your clinic to the patient or patient's guardian, so how do you tell from your personal point, please? So that will help us. Basically, we are a good number of pediatrician gynecologists here, so they can understand and learn from it, please. Sir, you can tell first and then Madam.
Okay.
Yeah.
So first and foremost is to write in a vaccination chart, which we've done from the beginning. So once there it is there in the chart, the awareness starts from there. And then we have a poster explaining about the vaccine outside the clinic. So again, a little noise is created. They ask the receptionist also. And when they come to us at 10 years for the TDAP vaccine, so I tell them now all your vaccines are complete till 18 years of age. You don't even need a tetanus shot. The only vaccine remaining is the HPV vaccine. I have stopped saying cervical cancer vaccine because it's actually, other cancers also prevented, and we tell them HPV vaccine. So they ask us what is HPV, and we tell them now we have a vaccine which prevents against various cancers. One of them is cervical cancer, then vulva, vaginal, anal, all those cancers, even oral cancers. So they get interested and they think, okay, we have a vaccine against cancer, so it's an important vaccine, and and we give them a date to come next. Or if they're willing, we can give it on the same day. Only problem I've seen is that TDAP and HPV both are slightly painful. So giving on the same day becomes a little painful for them, both arms gone. But if they are a good, willing patient, they come on the next day. We just write their appointment, send them a reminder on that day.
Thank you, sir. Madam, please.
Dr. Wadhwa, I have also started doing the same thing. Now I don't say that cervical cancer prevention vaccination. I say there's a vaccination against cancers, and they listen to it.
And especially oral cancer, which is actually true. We cannot tell them
Correct.
Wrong things also. Oral cancer people, I think personally, they are more interested. Cervical cancer, they feel what it is. Even if you tell them it's the second most common cancer, they don't believe it. But oral cancer, somehow they jump to it. Okay, oral also,
Yes.
that's.
Thank you, sir. Madam, please. In a pediatric practice, it is sometimes easy to talk about vaccine because the children come to vaccination. But in gynecologic practice, it is slightly tough. In truly practical scenario, Madam, how do you tell about the vaccine to the
For
patient?
us, it is very simple. In our OPD booklet, which we have printed over there that these vaccination, have you taken it or not? And the person who takes the history initially also talks. This particular part they must ask, have you taken a cancer vaccination? So we now don't talk cervical cancer. We say, have you taken cancer vaccination? And then they get curious about it and they are interested in it. And I also feel now that instead of saying cervical cancer, you say that cervical, vulval, vaginal, anal, and then oral cancer. And people are very willing. And during pregnancy, if they are coming to us for the first time and we are telling them about the tetanus toxoid, the Tdap, the flu vaccination, we tell them at the same time that we will give you this cancer vaccination once the delivery is done, and they come willingly. And I find in my practice, postpartum vaccination, they take very readily.
Thank you.
The counseling you have to dedicate time. Once she hears it from junior and it is reconfirmed by us, they know that this is there. And then 1 or 2 pamphlets should be there and put up in the OPD waiting area also for them. Then I find, maybe that if it's because it's expensive vaccination, they may not take the same day, but they will come back and take it.
I think last 12 years, the vaccine has been around. The times have changed. Patients have also become more acceptable to the point that you're taking a cancer vaccine. Initially, it was more difficult. Now it's become a little easier than before.
But sir, you will agree with me that counseling is an art.
Yeah.
People have to learn.
Has become a little more, but then yes, obviously, if we don't tell them, they'll not ask themselves, most of them.
And if you have taken it, if your family members have taken it, your counseling becomes more impactful.
True.
They can see it on your face.
True. Thank you, ma'am. In continuation, madam, another question come to my mind. Regarding the postpartum, what is your feeling that can we think about a postpartum say, as a protocol type of practice in our, say, the clinics, or say in a nursing home or in a hospital? So what is your opinion?
I feel is for people who are working in metros is almost become a protocol. Let me be very frank with you. It has to be strongly recommended. If this girl has to be given a catch-up vaccination, sometimes she has to be given. And majority of the time when they come to the gynecologist, they're already pregnant. So the first opportunity they have is the postpartum period. So it is like a protocol kind. If she can't afford it, she can't afford it.
I think first point is conviction of the doctor. So, the gynecologist or the pediatrician or the doctor is convinced, next actually automatically follows. And the way you talk, it passes on. Your conviction passes on very fast.
Your conviction passes on very fast.
I know, like I was telling you, I've given it to my boys, and I tell them I've given it to my boys, and you, as a girl, you're thinking about it immediately. They are quiet. Okay, yeah, we have to think.
Thank you. Thank you.
It has to be precise. It has to be to the point. It has to be emotional. It is, I have taken it, my people have taken it, you should also take it.
Thank you. Thank you. Another query come to my mind to Dr. Vadha. Say, how really you are comfortable and pediatricians are comfortable to talk to the mothers, because the babies are coming, young babies, and their the mothers, how really are comfortable to talk about HPV vaccination to mothers?
No, I think comfort is not a problem at all. You're talking about so many things to the mothers, breastfeeding, this, that. So comfort is not a problem. I think most pediatricians, the problem is when they don't talk to the mothers, it's lack of time. Except for 2020, most of the time you have wailing children waiting outside, crying children, vaccine, this, that. You don't have time to talk to the mothers. But otherwise, comfort-wise, I don't think any pediatrician has any uncomfort level kind of talking of a vaccine to a mother. I don't think that's the issue at all. It's very easy. You can easily talk to them. Now, 2020, people have time, but the parents are not coming. They're not interested in these things.
See, what I feel is if your staff has taken it, if the sister has taken it, the lady staff in your clinic has taken it, and when they counsel about it, that you must talk to the doctor about this particular vaccination, they find they come and specifically ask you. A sister was talking about this particular vaccination, and this is what I find my other pediatrician colleagues do it, that their sisters talk to the mother that you need to take a vaccination.
Yeah, so time can be taken care of by talking. The sister talks, they are primed, and once they're inside, you have to do less talking.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We have received one question on 9-valent HPV 9-valent vaccine. So would you please give us some information regarding 9-valent vaccine, and because in US it is no more quadrivalent, and what are the advantage? And any comment on that side? So it is not available in India currently, so we can.
See, the question is, there is a long wait. It has been approved in this particular country, and we are always told that all the vaccines have been going to China because they have paid to the MSD in advance for the whole population, and then when it is going to come. See, the question is, from bivalent vaccine to quadrivalent vaccine has an advantage that, the wards are taken care of, and which is the big problem otherwise also. And when naturally the 9 viruses, oncogenic viruses will come, the spectrum will be wide, and definitely it will have far more reach, and the other HPV related vaccines, you will find a significant drop will be there inside those. So the vaccine will definitely be eagerly waiting that MSD supplies and considers this country.
I hope it doesn't come when China finishes off vaccinating its whole population. It should come before that.
Okay, thank you. And the next question came up on HPV vaccination, part of our national immunization program. So any comment on that from Dr. Joginder Arya?
Dr. Partho, I will hear say that, the national immunization program, the mastermind is all pediatrician. So they have the key. people like us have to plead them, and they had told that in 2019 it will be there in a national immunization program. And then it was about to come, this corona came. And now corona is going to have a priority unless, once it has come from the WHO, and WHO, our honorable health minister is there on the board, I'm sure there will be some pressure from the WHO, because it says that in case if you don't follow it, in the next 10 years, you will see the 50% rise as far as cervical cancer deaths are concerned. I'm sure, this should be included in immunization program. Dr. Wadhwa is going to speak.
No, definitely it should be included. But the point is, obviously the government doesn't have resources for such an important, expensive vaccine. And pneumonia vaccine, if you see, even for this, I think Gavi has to support our country. And Gavi, if you see their budgets, more than 50% of the Gavi budget is spent on procuring the pneumonia vaccine. So what we're expecting now this year, in another couple of days only, we are going to have an Indian pneumonia vaccine, and which will be available to Gavi at almost 1/3 of the cost at what VAD supplies. So Gavi can save some money there. 50% budget might become 10-15%. Then they'll have money enough to support HPV vaccine in countries like ours, Gavi supported countries. So somebody has to buy the vaccine and give.
No, I was told the Gavi limit was ending in 2020. It is extended to 2025 now. And now that this vaccine will be available for $2.50, I think only the government has to wake up. If we have to reach out to every girl in the school, the funding has to come. Even $2.50 has to come.
Thank you. And just for information for the audience, one state, Sikkim, has taken up the vaccine, the quadrivalent vaccine, as a part of the Gavi project, as well as Punjab. They have taken 2 districts at one go, and the second, another 2 districts in a partly basis for QHP vaccination. As a Gavi project. So these 2 projects they have done in a Gavi project as a mass vaccination for the 9 to 14 years. And in Punjab, it was in Sikkim 9 to 14 years, and Punjab it was for few classes only. So 3 years, 3 consecutive classes they have given.
Even Delhi government was planning to do something in 2 different schools.
Yes.
I don't know, they started and stopped there only.
Right. Now, I think we are coming to nearing to the end. So if we find any other questions. So, Madam, to you first, so any message would you like to share to this august audience?
My only request is HPV vaccine should not be underrated by the gynecologist. It is the foundation, it is the key. And if you give vaccination, 50% load of this country can be there. And we become serious about see and treat program. We should do it in community. We should screen and treat program. We should learn it. And we must know it. It is a single visit program. So there are many people out there who can get these people who need this kind of screening. The screening can be done on the same day. The treatment can be done on the same day. And in case if there's something abnormal, you should tell them about the vaccination, that you have an abnormality. If you take the vaccine, it will be good. I think the job will be done. Time has come that every gynecologist को कमर कसनी पड़ेगी, vaccination देना पड़ेगा और screen करना पड़ेगा patients को. And every poorest of the poor lady must be screened in her lifetime at least twice. So that's a message I can say. And I feel we must pressurize the Delhi University. A few colleges had started that they will not be promoted from class 1 to class, the second year, unless they have taken a vaccination. But again, the principles change, everything changes. The similar way, I think the local governments have to be also motivated, because I think the jointly, if a pediatrician and gynecologist and everybody goes together, the ministry is going to listen to us. So my request at this particular time, I'm a gynecologist, I can only plead to the gynecologist.
Thank you, madam. Sir, please, your message.
Message ma'am has said very nicely and clearly. We have to be very proactive. We have to go for the vaccine. And first and foremost, like I said, we have to be convinced ourselves. If there is any problem with any pediatrician who's not convinced, they can come back, talk to any one of us. and or read up themselves the WHO site. The WHO position paper is very important, and it's been found to be the most impactful vaccination, value for money. So if you can save maximum lives with minimum money, we should do it. There's no question why not.
Thank you, sir. So it is our privilege to have the two eminent personalities here. So thank you so much, madam. Thank you so much, sir, for your eloquent speech as well as insightful thoughts and advice. It is our privilege to thank each and every participant, physicians, both pediatricians and gynecologists, and some of the other physicians also present across India for your active participation. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. They want to